Yo, 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 what's happening out there?
Yeah, what up, though? Got one for you.
Yeah, this right here gonna shake up some things. I hope you're ready. Yeah, I hope you're all ready, man. This right here is deep, man. It's real deep.
Man, yeah, what they say is like sometimes you hate being right.
Yeah. Just hope our kinfolk out there ready for it, cause it's gonna take quite a few twists and turns, but it's
Yeah,
gonna
hey,
really
just go
update you.
for the ride with us, though. Just go for the ride and relax.
Most definitely,
You're gonna
and
love the destination.
that's the most important thing, the destination. Uh,
I see you, Supreme, up in here. Let's go.
we slid in this thing. Matter of fact, let me
Yeah,
go ahead and make sure my guys can they get up on the thing when they put something up. What's up, family? Good to see you in this thing early. Listen here, you gonna love this one, Preem. This one here is deep. It's gonna take some twists and turns, but we got
shout
all the
out, C
facts.
Money. What up, though?
Okay, shit. See, money. That's what's up. The fam falling up in this thing. That's what's up. So,
Yeah, we about to get active tonight, y'all.
oh, we're gonna get real active. We're gonna get real active, man. I
Yeah, we
hope
about to
y'all
get
ready.
active. You know what I mean? Like this one. Okay. Okay.
Now, we want to start with what we're gonna end. One, we said something about this last time I did something. When I said, well, that last time we was on here with everybody, we said that we believe that at the end of the day, blacks and Jews are gonna come together. The Jews are gonna help us get reparations. Don't get mad, because we're gonna lay it out. Okay. The other thing, is, let me see, reparations. The other thing is Thurgood Marshall with the Civil Rights Act may not be who you thought he was, but we're gonna come with the facts about that as well. And we also gonna speak to what's going on with the whole voting thing and all that that's before the Supreme Court. And it's gonna take a hell of a twist. I just hope y'all patient. Hope you don't get upset. Hope y'all let me and Thought over here cook. And we're gonna cook it. We're gonna kick it as we go now. But I'm just saying, before we get into this thing, it's gonna be real deep, brothers, real deep. What we got, Percy? What up, though, family?
What up?
Okay, we got Leggett. I think this the first time we seen this brother up in here. But what's up to you, family?
What up, though?
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome.
So, welcome. We about to cook, man. So I hope y'all ready. We're gonna go and dive off into this thing because like I say, I don't know y'all if y'all ready, but here we go, man. Oh, not that one.
Without having their career destroyed.
In the Middle Ages, they made loans and they charged interest. Good Christians weren't supposed to charge interest because that's usury. They got into banking. They'd always been into banking because that's a Middle Eastern thing. It was set up in antiquity, the banking system that we now have internationally. So they got there up on the money aspect. You had people like Alexander Hamilton. He was raised as a Jew, born in Jamaica.
Now, remember, Middle Ages,
Mm-hmm.
changing money, the whole nine. What we covered before, they were money lenders. You know what I'm saying? So pay attention to that. I'm about to play this next video, and then I'm gonna give a shout out to the people that we use some of their stuff. We're creating this and catch a couple of y'all messages. Then we're gonna get back into it. So let's go. Pay attention to this next one now. Remember, middle age money lenders. Okay, here we go.
And then comes the 11th century. At that time, Jewish people were not allowed to own land. They were just peasants. Even some of the professions were not even allowed to participate in. But they were allowed to do one thing, usury, money lending, because it was prohibited by the Catholic Church to engage into that. So what happens when you work in money? You get richer, right? And those Jews lived in ghettos. Now, ghettos was not just like isolated neighborhoods in cities. Sometimes ghettos were outside the city. This is like how isolated they were. And in those ghettos, they have to pay gold to the mayor or the governor or the prince or the noble. So they would see, you're getting richer. I need more taxes. So they pay tax. What happens when you have a business and they increase your rent? You increase your service, increase the tax. So what happened? The Christians started to default. And suddenly, the image of the greedy Jew was created. Shylock, Merchant of Venice.
Now hold that thought. Let me give a shout out. First of all, I see my baby mama slid up in here. What's happening, baby mama? Yeah, she slid up in here. Okay. Right here. This is We Woke Now, decent channel, whatever. And he got some heavy stuff on there. I don't agree with all his views, but what is a conversation without having stuff you don't necessarily agree with everything?
Exactly.
So, yeah, so there that is. Okay, right here is my cousin, and y'all gonna get a chance, which I mean a lot of y'all already familiar with him because a lot of people that that come frequent what we do, y'all already conscious of a lot of stuff. But he's really gonna clarify a lot of stuff. But check his channel out. And I don't know if any of y'all familiar with the Hodge brothers. They say some crazy stuff with the Hodge twins. You know what I'm saying? They straight hardcore right, but like I say, you're gonna have a conversation, you gotta have every opinion in it. Then we got right here, we got the Jim Doral, I guess, show.
Yeah.
He got some real good stuff on there. And then I always have Savy on here, which we got some of her stuff. She real good too. With she have a lot of different people on there with different perspectives, and the actual show that we actually using right now. You know what I'm saying? This is educate, inform, inspire. They got some good stuff up there, and we using this Joe Brown clip come from them, a little piece of it. So we got that out the way. Let's catch this message right here. Oh, okay, Bream. I already know you up on it. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna get back into this thing and start cooking, man. We got quite a bit to get through, but please pay attention because all this stuff is gonna come together. It's all gonna come together. Here we go.
And they also used us. That's what the NAACP was. Now you'll hear various revisions on who found.
They also used us. That's what the NAACP. Okay, just had to point that out real quick to make sure y'all catch that.
And they also used us. That's what the NAACP was. Now you'll hear various revisions on who founded the NAACP. But as the NAACP toots and have for the last 60-some years that I have been intimately aware of, the purpose of the NAACP was this: Jewish folk were catching hell in America. So if you used the Negro, colored people as a foil, if you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. So the civil rights thing helped out the Jewish community immensely. And they have insinuated themselves greatly into the economic process of the country.
Okay, now catch this. This is short, but pay attention to it. I'm gonna run it back again later on with some things highlighted. But pay attention to this. It don't seem like nothing, but pay attention to this.
Who pushed the NAACP agenda?
Who owns it?
That's what I'm telling you. So who told Thurgood Marshall?
Let me look at you in your face. You're saying the same thing I'm saying.
No, I'm saying it in a non-argumental way. I'm saying it so the listeners can understand what I'm saying.
He got cut off when he said, "Who told Thurgood Marshall?" Who told Thurgood Marshall? Okay, gonna ease on some more to move y'all through some of this, and we're gonna start landing some of it. I see the comment. Give me a minute.
And then as far as the black experience goes, I remember attending a lecture by Thurgood Marshall years ago, and he said what the NAACP and himself chose to do to advance civil rights for the first part of the 20th century, since there weren't any real laws other than the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments on it, was this. They went to the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals laws that states had passed. And the theory was, if you couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro. If you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. So a whole lot of people have benefited from us being the Miranda, so to speak, about what rights are. People don't like Negroes, but they appreciate what we have set up. And over 50 years, it has been repeated over and over. You have to be fair and impartial. You can't be racist, even though somebody might be.
And if you look, he was saying there was no other laws on the books since the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. You have to pay close attention to that distinction. That's going to be very, very, very important. And it's going to be defined as we continue to go forward. But if you notice, he says Thurgood Marshall and NAACP as if almost they're two separate entities, when Thurgood Marshall worked up under the NAACP. So pay attention to that and remember who told Thurgood Marshall. So keep that in mind as well as we continue to move through this. Now, he spoke about how if you couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. But who pointed out to him to use the laws of animal protection? And that language there that he used, Thurgood Marshall, basically reinterpreted the existing definition of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments and made it a, what is that called? Humanitarian right instead of an exclusive right. Now, this was done in finance. We already understand how that goes, to include another group that was being tortured and messed over, the money lenders, for 1,500 or more years. And they wanted protection. We weren't receiving protection because we weren't really familiar with the first Civil Rights Act. But what happened, bureaucracy started to move in, and we'll get more into that later. Let me grab this one comment here. And I'm just bringing it all together so y'all can catch it for y'all that ain't, so we can continue to move through it. What you got, Supreme? I fool with all those channels except the Hodge. Yeah, the Hodges, they kind of crazy. The next clip is
out there.
Yeah, the next clip is from the Hodges. And pay attention to what they're saying. But not only that, pay attention to how they're starting to turn around and target the Jew again. Pay attention.
They did is they put blacks in a protected class a little bit as well, so that it could justify theirs. And so they just focus on like, oh, we need to protect blacks, when in actuality, they're the ones that have been persecuting blacks more than anybody. But they put it on the whites and they're like, oh, well, blacks need to be protected. And then because we have a protected class for them, we'll just jump in there too because we need to be protected as well. Right. So they set it up for blacks, while at the same time basically positioning themselves to also be in the victim category. And then they create through the left this hierarchy of victim mentality where it's like the more victim categories that you're in, the more of a voice that you have and the more, oppressed you are and the more other people should respect you, to the point where like, a straight white guy who's Christian shouldn't even have a voice.
Yeah, they pretty much ran the North Atlantic slave trade, and then after all that pain and suffering they did to blacks and Africans, hey, let's use that to be also a protected class.
Yeah.
That's diabolical.
Yeah, they financed the
the Holocaust here in America with the Indians, huh?
I don't know about that. That may be true. I mean, Christopher Columbus, they found out that he was Jewish.
What?
No, seriously. That's
Christopher Columbus.
You didn't see that? It was all on
he was
Twitter.
Columbus, yeah.
He was a crypto Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember they talked about like what a fucking scumbag he was and this and that. It's like
Christopher Columbus was a Jew? Well, look at the picture of him, Kevin. Dude's got Jew written all over his face.
That's like I said, that their channel was crazy, man. But you can see how now they're taking Christopher Columbus, which they pretty much worship in Western culture over here, and now they're turning him into something else. And you heard the gentleman say it's like a white tea person, you know, don't have no, and basically turned himself into a victim. Pay attention to how they, I think somebody said code switching. I don't know if I got the term right, but how they switching stuff around and creating what I said to y'all before, and you about to hear a clip on the scapegoat. That's what they're creating. Okay, and okay, we got what you got here?
Judah P. Benjamin was one and had more slaves than anybody.
One. Oh, you talking about
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that I think that's important, not disputing what you say, I agree with what you're saying. The thing that is important to pay attention to, and there's historical facts when you go looking into the ledgers and all that, and look at the percentage of what was profited from who you suggesting. The thing that where their money is found is in the actual financing. They finance everything that end up becoming known as Europe. Because the rulers of Europe were very horrible with managing money.
Terrible.
You know what I'm saying? So that's important. But
to this day.
Yeah. And that's why appropriating people's stuff has become the overall goal, because they've never been good at it. And they needed them to finance everything. And it was either you finance everything that we want and you'll get back most of your money sometime, or we'll do you like we're going to do everybody else and rob everybody else that don't give you nothing. That was pretty much their choice. Okay, so let's continue to move on. Here we go.
So now some other groups take advantage of that and they say, well, we're just like black folk. No, you're not. We have the same cause as black folks. No, you don't. But everything that's been said in association with black folk has been helpful to your cause. And Jewish people and Negroes and colored folk and black folk and Afro-Americans have been hooked up a long time in terms of what they're doing. Hollywood, that so many of us ideate on, is a Jewish enclave.
Jews and blacks are connected. They make a lot of money off of blacks. But they also constructed what was partial protection for us. And I'm going to show some of that as we continue to go. But when I'm talking about the connection that's there, and keep this in mind, their protection is with us, not separate from us. Keep that in mind as we go through this. They have to stay connected to us in order to protect themselves from, we already understand who. So how's the statement go? Not saying this is just a statement. This the quote. This is not me feeling this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I need y'all to see what's happening. Okay? I'm gonna get to two comments right quick, and we're gonna move on again. Oh, what's up, Miller? I ain't seen you in a minute, boy. I thought, did we say something to you up earlier? Oh, he just slid in here. Was you in here earlier? Okay. Well, I think we came in. Okay. That's what's up. Um, what you got, Preem? I gotta grab the book, The Secret Relationship Between. Excuse me, y'all. That is a very good book. That is a very good book. But what's important to also understand, it's like John Henry Clark say, if you want to understand, he was told, if you want to understand your history, study the history of your masters. And I have studied their history. And I have seen a pattern, which as we move through this, you're gonna see more of it. I don't know if you ever grabbed my joint or not, Preem. The
Pause.
what? What's that wrong?
No, I was just saying.
Oh.
You say, yeah, I don't know if you ever grabbed my joint, Supreme.
oh yeah. No Diddy and all the other stuff. Yeah, my book, the spiritual currency. I think you would really be able to vibe with that joint, man, and it'll really be okay. Okay, you got them both. Okay.
All right.
So if you really look through that, man, a lot of what's going on, it's something I'm gonna drop at the end if I don't forget. That's gonna really point to a lot of that. Actually, I'm gonna give you a hint. It's what just got released not too long ago when Russia sent over to the Senator Luna or whatever the paperwork from their investigation of JFK's assassination. And in there, he had a bridge that Kennedy and I think Khrushchev or whatever was negotiating with attaching Russia to the to Alaska and therefore to the United States. But now they're discussing a tunnel and all that, and that's what when Trump went up to go meet with Putin, that's what a lot of that was about. But that's deeper than that. I hope you also seen that King Charles supposed to be going to go pray with the Pope, and that hasn't been done in 500 years. But like I say, we'll get back around to that because I know how we do it. CCWR. Okay. Well, we still going to tell about the time you was around. You know what? I got to make a what's the name of that? A note of that. Matter of fact, let me write that down because I forget all about that.
I got it.
Okay, and we'll definitely do something about that.
Matter of fact, I got something that will tie into that.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead. So I hear you. I hear you, Percy. We got to get back to some D-boy stuff. I got you. We're gonna put something together, baby. We're gonna put something together. Okay, where we at now? Okay, here we go.
And people look for scapegoats. And the Jews became the scapegoats for Europe for a long time. And black folk are the scapegoats for America. You see, in any time you have a large population, you have a lot of undisplaced interpersonal hostility and aggression. People are mad at each other. But if you've got a scapegoat they can displace all of that on, even if vicariously, then they tend not to be so angry. So America would be a fine place if it wasn't for them militant niggers that they have, like H-Rap something on others and Stokely whatchamacallits. Heard that a lot in the late 60s and early 70s.
And I got something on scapegoat, but again, remember the one with the Hodge twins and how the one gentleman was up there trying to switch roles around and trying to say how the Jewish people persecuted us and did all these bad things to us. But I'm about to play somebody in a minute, and one of his clips that I played before saying, why are you saying that? When he researching, he's a professor. When he looked at the actual Bill of Ladings and all that from the manifest of the ships that was carrying the slaves, all the names he seen was Smith, European names. He didn't see no Bernsteins, no Goldsmiths, and or whatever. I'm probably saying the wrong names, but y'all get my point. But let's go ahead. Pay attention to this. Here we go. And I played this one before, but pay attention to the switch that's going on.
Strange tweet that Elon pinpointed on here. But the first part is absolutely true. Let's go to this. Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that.
What up, Moore? Happy to see you in here, family. You heard what he said. He spoke about the whole Black Lives Matter and saying that the Jews funded that. History says, even though it's varied sometimes, the Jews also set up the NAACP. It said they also support a lot of, as he described, left-wing woke ideologies. Think about that. That's all centered around us. But that has to exist because that's where their protection is. Now, Charlie Kirk is gone. You know, peace to his transition and, you know, respect to his family or whatever the case may be. But you heard what Elon Musk said and what he's saying. It's like they're targeting the people that has historically targeted them. And don't forget the Hodge video we just played, where he was saying that the Jewish people, what they supposed to did to us, and that they were cruel to us and protected themselves through us, but then pointed to Christopher Columbus and now makes him a Jew. And speaking as if he's a victim. All I'm saying is pay attention to this as we move through this. Make your own conclusions, but pay attention. Okay, we're going to slide on this next one.
We're on the verge of the great divorce. And I've been telling you that we would see, I've been telling you for a long time now, that we're going to see the floodgates open in terms of that latent, seething, and ever-present Western anti-Jewish hatred. That's why you sent the Jews over there to do it in the first place. That's why. That's why you made your colonial stormtroopers a Jewish brigade, precisely so that you could disavow them when the time came. I saw this coming years ago, and here we are. It's the Jews. I mean, it's our money, it's our weapons, it's our policy, it's our political coverage, it's our bombs, it's our missiles, it's our attack helicopters, it's our support, but it's the Jews. Because it's the henchman who always takes the fault. That's why they set the system up like that, plausible deniability. And that's why they're going hard in the paint with the blame shifting now. That's why you've got your Candace Owens types, your Tucker Carlson types, and so on, sort of opening the tap on despising Jews in acceptable public discourse. It's transparent. And no, I've said it many times, no question about it. Just like the death squads that Washington unleashed on Central and South America, just like every hired killer, just like every mercenary is.
Now, this next joint I'm going to play, a lot of y'all familiar with, about DEI. I want you to pay attention to these next few up in here because things about to shift. DEI is being redefined, and I'm going to show you that. A lot of things is being redefined right in front of your face and you're not paying attention to it. And pay attention, like some videos back when Judge Joe Brown said something about the last 60 years, talking about the civil rights movement and stuff like that. Pay attention to stuff because me and Thought about to swing the heavy hammer on y'all, and I hope y'all ready. And we got the receipts. Here we go.
Shorthand for hiring unqualified black people.
Yeah.
To jobs that should go to white people. You know, so I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of that and see kind of what I thought, what other people thought. Okay, so here's a little quiz. Who do you think benefits most from DEI programs? They did a survey. The Pew Research people, they're pretty good. They did a survey about 5 months ago to get people's opinions. And if you said black people, most people agree with that. But the one thing that got a majority of votes is black women benefit and black men benefit. Do white women benefit? A lot of people don't know. If you had asked me, I would have said, well, I'm not really sure, but probably somewhat.
Right.
And that's what most, 30% of people say yes. Almost as many say they are hurt by it, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But almost nobody thinks that white men are benefited.
Right.
Like 14%. But a lot of people think that they're hurt by it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the general opinion. All right, so that's where we stand. Fortunately, the government actually kept statistics because this has been going on for 60 years. It's not like it happened yesterday. And you can look it up, except you can't because they took all that information off the web. And
Right, not anymore.
vanished. Who do you think benefits the most from DEI programs? Black people? No. White women. Overwhelmingly. One of the reasons is that 50 years of affirmative action got a lot of women into the workplace. Who's the second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs? The second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs is white men. And when I read that, I was completely shocked.
50 years of affirmative action is what loaded the women up. Affirmative action. Let me fix this camera, y'all. Oh, dang, hold on. "50 years of affirmative action." And affirmative action is supposed to be for who? 50 years of that loaded the women up. We're not targeting women, we're making a point. But we know what women is talking about, the YT women. So that's how DEI came in and put a little something extra mama seasoning, the mama cooking on top of that, as Kwame Brown would say. So pay attention to that now. And you seeing who benefited from them programs the most. And remember, Joe Brown said 60 years. 60 years from the second Civil Rights Act. It was not the first of 64, 65. But I'm going to show y'all what happened and what Thurgood Marshall did. And as the brother said earlier, who told him? I'm just saying. I'm going to grab this comment right here. Okay, Prim, what you got? Shit, what's understood don't need to be explained. You know, now we're about to move off into the argument that the Supreme Court was hearing out of Louisiana that they expanded and looking like they're going to do a moratorium on this for a whole country. But listen to what this young guy's saying right here, because it's about to get deep.
Vote Democrat and we only have one district, we are unrepresented in the district. So you actually have to create another black majority district, again, a majority minority district, so that Democrats are fairly represented in our districts. Of course, there are a lot of issues with that because if you are giving preference based on race, that obviously goes against the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. And when it comes to the 15th Amendment, we run into issues there as well.
Now, you heard what he said. The issue is with the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment. Now, watch this and pay attention to this.
And has no rights get eradicated. We're going to also enact civil rights laws. They tried to write the 1865 Civil Rights Law and again in 1867, strictly and solely for black people. The civil rights laws in this country were put in a place only for black people, nobody else. Whites had all their civil rights in the 1st through the 12th. And all the immigrants coming to this country that were viewed and classified as whites got it in the 1 through 12. All Asians come to this country, Hispanics and Arabs come to this country who are classified as whites, they got their rights in the 1 through 12. Women got all their rights through the 1 through 12. Gays and homosexuals got their rights in the 1 through 12. But the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment was written strictly and solely for black people, period. Nobody else. And so, and that's what it was for. And what they said is that black folk must minimally have some access to some resources to be a competitive people.
He defined it for you right there. Now let me play back again what I just played after what you just heard and tell me what you hear.
Vote Democrat and we only have one district, we are unrepresented in the district. So you actually have to create another black majority district, again, a majority minority district, so that Democrats are fairly represented in our districts. Of course, there are a lot of issues with that because if you are giving preference based on race, that obviously goes against the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. And when it comes to the 15th Amendment, we run into issues there as well.
The 14th and 15th Amendment has nothing to do with him. His protections is between the 1st and the 12th Amendments. He has nothing to do with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Allow me to remind you, Trump stated in the Oval Office when he heard that the Supreme Court would hear it, he said that it must be emphasized. Tell the attorneys they must emphasize that it was for the 14th Amendment was for slaves and the descendants of slaves. And I'm paraphrasing here. It had nothing to do with YT people, as Dr. Claud Anderson just stated. They're protected through the 1 through 12. And everyone that comes into this country, and he went through all of these different characters or groups, they end up getting privilege. YT privilege. So the gentleman that just invoked the 14th and 15th Amendment, it does not apply to him. But it was redefined with that second Civil Rights Act. Because you heard my cousin just say the dates of the first Civil Rights Act of the 1800s. But hold on, it's about to get deep.
Now, by 1868, 69, some whites down in New Orleans from the meatpacking industry says, well, let's go out of the 1 through 12 amendment. Let's go over into the 13th and 14th amendment and use all those amendments that's set aside for black folk. Why can't we use them? And so they filed a lawsuit in 1869 saying we want to be able to use all those amendments for black folk. And that was they went to the Supreme Court. They got into the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a major ruling in 1872 called the Slaughterhouse case, which says that no white person or anybody else is entitled to use the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And those civil rights laws was written strictly and exclusively for black people. That's called the Slaughterhouse case of 1872. And then later on in 1879, the Saunders case said the same thing, that the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment civil rights laws were put in place to protect the ex-slaves in America, the black population. They should not be entered by anyone else and be misused, because if you let other people use it, that's how whites come up with this thing about if you're going to try to take back what we took from you, that's reverse discrimination. So that's why it's a joke that have all these other groups coming here being classified as immigrants and white immigrants, and again being able to use the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment. That was strictly for black folk and ex-slaves. If they're not ex-slaves, Native Americans, ex-slaves, black Americans, ex-slaves, they have no entitlements of the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment of the civil rights laws.
And you just heard the young man saying that the 14th, if they basically discriminate, it has a problem with the 14th and 15th Amendments. That has nothing to do with him. And that's a prime example of what my cousin just stated about them claiming reverse discrimination based on the 14th and 15th Amendments that has nothing at all to do with them. Period. Full stop. But I'm going to show you something. Hold tight. Let's go through a couple of more of these, and then I'm going to read you something. Here we go.
And of course, all of this isn't even touching the elephant in the room, which is the fact that black voters aren't required, aren't guaranteed to vote Democrat every single time. In fact, in 2024, this last election, a historic share of black voters, heck, minority voters across the board, voted for President Trump, voted for Republicans. So it's not as if Democrats will forever have a monopoly on black voters. So with all of that as the backdrop, here is the first clip with Justice Sotomayor.
Reason to think that a racial group is being treated
here too. You have proof of that here.
No, you don't. What you have here is that Republicans and Democrats are different. There's no
you have some that even white Republicans or white Democrats won't vote for black candidates.
Right, but if these were white Democrats, there's no reason to think they would have a second district. None. And so what is happening here is their argument is because these Democrats happen to be black, they get a second district. If they were all white, we all agree they wouldn't get a second district. That is literally the definition of race subordinating traditional principles.
Justice Kagan?
And as you heard there, they moved straight on from Sotomayor straight to Justice Kagan. A complete beatdown and a complete schooling there. I just absolutely loved that moment from the hearings. And
now, this is an important thing to note, that Chief Justice Roberts, since he has been on the court, his strongest point has been striking down anything that has to do with race. And he even made a statement in 2007 saying the best way to eradicate or stop discrimination is by just stop discriminating. I mean, think about that. Saying that you're discriminating and that's what's causing discrimination. That's that whole scapegoat thing. Switching it around, saying they're the victim was something that had nothing to do with them. But there's a plot twist in this that I'm seeing. Thought see it too. And we're going to show it to y'all. I know Moore and Preem going to catch it. But just hold on a minute. We're about to run this next one.
In 1803 now, they had a case called the Marlborough and Madison case.
Pay attention to this one about this Marbury versus Madison case. Pay really close attention to this because I'm going to drop something on y'all.
In 1803 now, they had a case called the Marlborough and Madison case that was talking about some major issues in the country about who can do what. And at that time, they said, let's let the Supreme Court make a decision. So they established the United States Supreme Court, and they stacked that Supreme Court with all white slave owners. The first 57 people appointed to the United States Supreme Court were white slave owners. Naturally, were racist, but they put them into the Supreme Court. And but one thing they did not give them, which the white Supreme Court had been abusing, they gave them authority to do three things on the Supreme Court. One, to inject themselves into their lower case rulings in the court system. Two, to be involved, they can be involved in ambassadorial appointments. Or three, they can get involved in anything where a federal official has failed to carry out his duties. Those are the only three roles and goals and authorities that the United States Supreme Court held. And that came in through what they call the Marlborough and Madison decision. And that went along like that up until about 1857, when all of a sudden a black man says, I want some rights. I should be free. I was living in Missouri, now I'm in Illinois. I should be free. I want to have a right to be excluded from bondage. He went to the Supreme Court, and then we went to Supreme Court Justice Haney and his court ruled against him, saying a black man has no rights that a white person is bound to respect. Period.
Now it's important to understand that Madison versus Marbury case, because that was the first time, just after Congress created the Supreme Court, that was the first time that Chief Justice, I don't think it was Martin, I think it was Chief Justice Davis, discerned a particular law as unconstitutional. Upon the creation of the Supreme Court, Dr. Anderson just told you they had 3 responsibilities and the 3 responsibilities of jurisdiction that they had. And discerning whether laws were constitutional or unconstitutional was never one of them. That was an authority they assumed, and they allowed them to assume that. And he's going to explain to you soon why they allowed them to assume that. And you keep wondering why it appears that the Supreme Court keep upholding everything that Donald Trump says. And I'm a Donald Trump voter. The reason why they're upholding everything that Donald Trump says, and you can chat GPT this, Madison versus Marbury, and state that the Supreme Court has no authority to rule whether something is constitutional or unconstitutional, and they assume that authority in that case. And see what ChatGPT tell you. That is still an open debate to today. It has never been given to them by Congress. So keep that in mind. And the reason why they don't rule against Trump, because they know Trump is a clown, and Trump will call their authority or jurisdiction into question. And that will be the end of the Supreme Court. And they know it.
Mm-hmm. He's threatening to do it.
So people pay attention to what's going on. And everything I'm saying, check it. I got the receipts here, man. Check it. Check it. Chat GPT it. That'll help you quicker. We can follow up on some more of your research. We're giving y'all the receipts here, man. We did the research. Okay, now we're going to slide on a couple more of these. I'm going to read some for y'all.
They want to liquidate blacks. They want to dilute their ability to have voting power in these districts. And they're going to use the yoke of the 14th and 15th Amendment and say, well, we shouldn't have a racial test. And so a result of which we're going to unwind the racial test to make minorities harder to have power in these districts. And so these districts will typically then flip to the Republican. This is a vision. This is, hey, America, we have 27% of the registered voters. We are the minority party in this country, but we know how to game the system, Caddy, to turn ourselves into the tyranny of the minority.
And what I'm saying to you is this. I don't believe that what the Supreme Court is doing and is also about to do has anything to do with black people. And there's somebody involved in this process that's going to help cook the books again for us and themselves. And we're getting close to that. Now, you heard what I just said about what the Supreme Court going to do and to take away from the blacks and other 14 when they have no jurisdiction to touch it at all. But the only reason they're touching it because the doctrinal reinterpretation that was done under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 65-ish, wherever in there. But here we go. I'm going to run this.
Is that the immigration policies and civil rights laws in this country have been misused and abused, and the primary perpetrator of that has been the United States Supreme Court. And here's what I'm saying about the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court is a guardian of racism in this country. Their primary responsibility, all the way back since they were appointed in 1803, was to be able to misuse and guard and maintain slavery and the subordination of black folk in the country. And that is in violation of the 13th and 14th Amendment. The United States Supreme Court has no right to overrule anything pertaining to black folk in terms of rights, obligations, privileges, and reparations. They have no rights. Their rights are restricted to being in ambassadorial appointments and relieving people who have violated their oath of office in the federal government and a federal job or in a lower case ruling. That's it. And so black folk need to understand and sort of reverting back and saying we're reclaiming our rights and privileges and recognition in the 13th and 14th Amendment and the civil rights laws. That's our laws, nobody else's. And cease and desist allowing anybody to come in this country saying that they have a right to the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment and the civil rights laws. Those civil rights laws have been corrupted. They were corrupted all through history. Those civil rights laws have been corrupted. They were corrupted all through history. They were corrupted in the 1960s. They were corrupted in the 1960s. They were corrupted in the 1960s when black folk again let everybody come in and proclaim them to be, say, we're entitled to, we got 14th Amendment rights. We got rights to this and that. You don't. If you're not black, you had no rights.
Mic drop.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Mic drop. Now, he told you what the Supreme Court was. He also tells you that 57 of the first initial Supreme Court justices were slave owners. And that the court, when it was created, purposefully put slave owning individuals on the Supreme Court. And they allowed them to interpret the constitutionality of things for the purpose he just stated. And the only reason the Supreme Court appears to be doing something different because somebody got a pew-pew to their head. And we didn't already talked about that because they want to keep their job and continue to eat good. So they're going to go along with the game plan. Okay, now this is something right here. A thought. Click notes. You got a notes on your side?
Yeah, pull it up.
Did you click it? Or you don't have one?
No, I don't have one. Nope.
Okay. Now dig this. Supreme Court 2026. Colorblind. That's the focus. Turn will likely reinterpret the 14th Amendment away from its reconstruction purposes, which was to protect the rights of freed slaves and their descendants, and toward a neutral race agnostic standard that treats racial consideration itself as unconstitutional. In effect, the court will claim to be redeeming or returning the 14th Amendment original meaning, but the result will be an erasure of its emancipatory intent. The 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments once a second constitution for Black Americans will be reframed as prohibition on race conscious remedies rather than as guaranteeing of racial justice. This doctrinal shift will complete the rollback of affirmative action and DEI by extending colorblind constitutionalism into voting rights. It will likely dismantle Section 2 race-based protections but race-based protection, pay attention to that definition, that's going to be important. Race-based protections and recast equally as sameness, not justice, cementing a new legal order that normalizes unequality while claiming neutrality. I know that was a mouthful, y'all. We're wrapping this thing up, but I got a couple of more things I'm going to hit y'all with. Videos, but actually about Thurgood, and it's going to bring it full circle for y'all. So let's move on. Pay attention. I'm replaying this video, and it's the one after it again, because we're moving into the final segment of this, and I need y'all to catch this. So here it go again. Some of it's going to repeat.
Who pushed the NAACP agenda? Who pushed the NAACP agenda?
Who owns it?
That's what I'm telling you. So who told Thurgood Marshall? So who told Thurgood Marshall? So who told Thurgood Marshall?
Why you keep? Why can't let me look at you in your face? Cause you're saying the same thing I'm saying.
No.
Who told Thurgood Marshall? Who owns the NAACP? Well, financed it. Financed Black Lives Matter. And a number of these other, you know what I'm saying? Now, here we go. It's about to pick up. And y'all need to pay attention to this because we're about to lead into what men thought about to drop on y'all. I'm going to run this back again because it's going to start coming in. So hold on. Here we go. And notice, well, let me shut up.
Shorthand for hiring unqualified Black people.
Yeah.
To jobs that should go to white people. So I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of that and see kind of what I thought, what other people thought. Okay, so here's a little quiz. Who do you think benefits most from DEI programs? They did a survey. The Pew Research people, they're pretty good. They did a survey about 5 months ago to get people's opinions. And if you said black people, most people agree with that. But the one thing that got a majority of votes is black women benefit and black men benefit. Do white women benefit? A lot of people don't know. If you had asked me, I would have said, well, I'm not really sure, but probably somewhat.
Right.
And that's what most, 30% of people say yes. Almost as many say they are hurt by it, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But almost nobody thinks that white men are benefited.
Right.
Like 14%.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Y'all already know how that ends. Now, let me slide in this one, play this, and then I'm going to read to you what Thurgood Marshall really did. And then we're going to get ready to start wrapping this thing up. But check this out.
Greenwald says, Trump says that the changes he's forcing private American universities to adopt are designed to prioritize merit and hard work before group identity. Well, here is the new DEI programs he's forced on Brown University to adopt. See for yourself that this is consistent with his claim. Let's look. So this is from the administration. It says these shall include actions to support a thriving Jewish community, research and education about Israel, a robust program in Judaic studies, through outreach to Jewish day school students to provide information about applying to Brown, resources for religiously observant Jews community members, renewed partnerships with Israel academics and national Jewish organizations, support for enhanced security at the Brown RSD Hillel, and a convening of alumni, students, and faculty to celebrate 130 years of Jewish life at Brown in the 2025-2026 academic year. And just substitute Black or Hispanic or anything, or Arab or Muslim for Jewish.
Let's catch this comment. Pring. So the money changers are turning the see, I'm more quiet tonight. More must got to go to work or dipped off or something. But yeah, they turning the tables on the usury because the world, on the usury because the world was more just with us. Yeah. But Preem, I'm not even done yet, but I'm happy you starting to see the traces of it because we got the receipts. But now let me go ahead and read to you what Thurgood Marshall did. Okay. And it's this joint called Tracing the Historical Foundation. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments of the First Civil Rights Act, 1865 through 1870, formed what scholars call the Second Constitution, a legal constitution designed specifically for the descendants of enslaved Africans. The 14th Amendment's citizenship clause, all people born or nationalized, was written to guarantee birthright citizenship to freed slaves, the same thing Trump says, and their children, not to address immigration nor non-slave descendants. Thurgood Marshall's later use of this constitutional triad, especially the 14th in the mid-20th century, extended its protection to all minorities. So that's why that kid said the 14th and 15th Amendments, his 14th and 15th Amendment was being violated, because what he did, it extended to all minorities that was initially protected because they received the privilege of YT and protected between 1 and 12. 13, 14, 15 had nothing to do with them. Okay, moving on. Arguing that any race-based discrimination violated the Equal Protection Clause. his reasoning that if cruelty protections applied to animals, human beings of African descent deserves at least equal protection, reframing civil rights as human rights. It was our right, but he reframed it as human rights. The Jewish Legal Network and the philanthropists that supported Marshall and the NAACP helped expand this moral legal frame, culminating in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which generalized the 14th Amendment's protections across racial, ethnic, and religious lines, effectively universalizing what had been specific Black American guarantees. Okay, and it says, yes, it's accurate. And this is what I said some things, so respond to what I said. This is Chat GPT thing I'm reading here. It's accurate. And it said, yes, it's accurate to argue that Marshall's universal reinterpretation both advanced and diluted Black specific protections. His 20th century legal strategy transformed the 13th through the 15th Amendments from a Black American safeguard into a general human right doctrine. What was Martin Luther King preaching around that same time? Think about it now. Okay, here we go. Continue. That made landmark victories like Brown versus the Board of Education possible, but it also erased the legal distinctiveness of the descendants of the enslaved as a constitutional defined class. By the time the Civil Rights Act of 1964 codified his broader vision, the second constitution built for freedmen had been a universal civil rights regime, open to all racial and ethnic groups. The upside was inclusive. The downside was diffusion. Protections written for the specific injuries of slaves were now shared, and the political leverage of that original claim weakened. Okay, in closing, Marshall's strategic universalism, Marshall's courtroom logic had to fit within. This is the racial thing that Dr. Anderson talked about, because he knew what the Supreme Court would bite on. Well, he was instructed of what they would bite on. I go as far as saying that. Okay, here we go. Marshall's courtroom logic had to fit within the Supreme Court that distrusted racial specific remedies. By framing equality as a universal human right, he could win Brown versus the board and similar cases. That strategic choice was the only language that the court would accept in the 1950s, but it converted a reparative project into a moral one. Now, this is what you need to pay attention to right here. Well, you know what? I'll save this for the end. Let's grab this one comment, then we're gonna move through these last few. Okay, more. You say he's still there. Okay, that's what's up. Okay. Now we're gonna move through these last videos. I'm gonna read the last thing at the very end after I give my conclusion and Thought give his. So let's move through these last few, but pay attention. I'm about to give you some examples of what's going on in the States. You already seen how DEI is being redefined after the last video that I just showed you before Supreme broke this thing down. Okay, the protections are going to be redefined. But here we go.
Newsom rejects bills providing benefits to slavery descendants. Gavin Newsom vetoed bills that would have provided tangible benefits to those descendants, though he approved a state agency to determine who qualifies for potential reparations. And what did I tell you guys about this before? agencies and studies, it's a cop-out. I told you before, oftentimes when these things are created, nothing really materializes from it that's really going to impact people's lives. But Gavin Newsom has no problem trying to materialize things to implement other lives. I'm going to show you who he decided to do something for.
Okay, we're going to move right into the next.
Dr. Darity believes that it is financially impossible for the state and local governments to implement reparations. And this is true. I interviewed Dr. Sandy Darity on my show about a year or two ago, and I asked him about the local measures to pursue this. And Dr. Darity said that the states don't have the money to pay the debt that is actually owed, right? So again, he looks at numbers and economy and all those types of things. So he feels this should be done on a national level, not via the states. But the point is this: Gavin Newsom, he moved kind of funny.
Now, check this one out.
Watch him squirm here. Everybody take note to this, because Gavin Newsom was recently questioned about AIPAC, and this is important when you see who he decided to just help. He was on Higher Learning here with Van Lathan. Listen to this.
Interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC. It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life. Okay. Which is just interesting. Listen, it's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less. Okay, fair enough. Which is just interesting. What's interesting about it? That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC that it hasn't been part of. I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly. Hasn't been part of the day-to-day.
So Gavin Newsom felt that it was interesting that AIPAC was mentioned, even though we've been talking about AIPAC for years, and it's been more prevalent in the spotlight since October 7th, where more and more people have been talking about AIPAC. It's just interesting, just interesting. Here's why he was kind of dodging that, right? So peep this, fam. Look at who he decided to help. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed legislation making California the first state in the nation to establish a statewide anti-Semitism prevention coordinator to oversee all K through 12 public schools. The measure was driven by the Jewish Public Affairs Committee of California, a robust lobbying network often described as the state level counterpart to AIPAC. That's why he was, a little squishy. It's interesting. That's why he was like that.
Y'all see that? Why did I show that? I'm showing that because I'm showing you that now you're starting to receive language within states talking about reparations and setting up reparation boards. And then you had a specialist that came and said that there's no way that a state could pay that. It needs to be done on a national level. While Newsom created that board, and Newsom plans to run for president, but now he just recently came back and basically vetoed all the stuff he asked him to give him. And you got the other character talking about it has to be a national thing because of the funds. And then you see what he did for the Jewish lobby or the Jewish people with education. You've seen what Donald Trump did for the Jewish people with education. Federal and state forms of DEI being redefined. And they're doing this through the law. They also helped us, even though it was taken and other things was done with it, but they knew what the Supreme Court would take. And they had, and I'm using tracing logic, they had, and that's why I had them say, who told Thurgood? Who told Thurgood to use what he used and to use the argument because he knew the Supreme Court wouldn't accept anything other than that. And the Jewish people helped us immensely and also helped themselves. But then you have bureaucracies that started to come in and add everybody else in under that minority language. And that's what the Supreme Court wanted anyway, because as my cousin stated, they are the bastion of keeping this going. Now you have Trump comes in and redefines the 14th Amendment, how he's redefined it, that no one ever thought about before, that was taken away when Thurgood Marshall went in there and redefined it as a human right instead of a specific right. And then you've seen the actual DEI and affirmative action, which we showed you who it really helped. You're seeing what's being done to the minorities and things of that sort. If the 14th Amendment is redefined according to how Trump is defining it and how it was historically under the original Civil Rights Act of 1865, goes back to that definition, all of your government entities that were created, including the Federal Reserve and all that, your Indian protections, your Native Indians of 1964 and all, goes away. All of it. And the 14th Amendment would have to be redefined. Your amendments after that will have to be redefined. The 16th Amendment that created and allowed the government to tax everyone throughout the country to set up the move for the Federal Reserve basically disappears. So y'all got to peep to play. But the move that's being done in Louisiana, and me and Thought already talked about this, with them stripping away that white right or protection or so-called protection from minorities for the Democratic Party, could wipe out the Democratic Party or gut it. But who do they say funded NAACP? Who funded Black Lives Matter? Who supported a lot of, according to the video that we played with Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk, may rest in peace. They blamed it on the Jews. So if they did all that, could they possibly be usurping the Democratic Party maybe? Because if you can't never win again because you don't have a black vote, you got to redefine and fall off like the Whigs did and separate like the Democratic Republican Party that turned into the Republican and the Democratic Party. Is that what we're looking at? And if that happens, could blacks and Jews be uniting again for more protection of the Jews, and the Jews end up getting us reparations that's due, that would automatically come after the redefining of the 14th Amendment, because you won't have other minority groups that could sue you talking about it discriminates against them anymore? Could that be what's on the horizon? Let me play a couple more videos for you, and then we're going to get out your way.
I'm going to take your souls. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything. I'm going to take your souls. We have the power.
George Brown told you who runs Hollywood. We know who runs music. And I told you a long time ago that Puffy was not being charged with everything he was to be charged with. And I said before he went in, he was rebranding himself. Y'all that know, you know. Now we're hearing that Trump, Willie D said, had a pardon on his desk for Diddy. Think about this stuff, people. And we know Diddy had tapes and was doing all type of frisky Thundercat type stuff. He wasn't charged with none of it and sliding up out of there. Now, what do Diddy slide up out of there with? He already had popularity with music. But now he comes out with street credibility. He allegedly stood 10 toes down. He allegedly didn't tell. And he allegedly beat the feds. That's street credibility. These kids eating that shit up right now. And he can be a voice. But hold on. Let me check what Moore's saying. You know what? Mel, hold on a minute. Let me play this next video for you because it's going to come together. I ain't looking at what Moore got because he going to tell every goddamn thing. So we're going to play this next one.
It's called Our Black Party. Okay. It's time for us to have our own black political party, unapologetically. Because right now, if you look at the debates, we're not even a part of the conversation. Not at all. We're not a part of the conversation. We don't have any political power. We don't have any political leverage. And so we started Our Black Party with some young, fearless black activists, elected officials, and I've stepped up and put the money behind it. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest threat and the only option that we have right now as far as making a change, taking our own self-responsibility and accountability to be educated and empowered with our vote.
So what's the goal for our Black Party?
Is it coming together for y'all now? And if it ain't, let me go and hit you with one more of these things. I got a last one before I run the last one. I'm going to read the joint, though. But let me hit you with this.
Black vote is not going to be for free. We're going to have to see some promises. You know, what are we getting in return for our vote? Nothing has changed for Black America. And in order for us to vote for Biden, we can't be taken for granted like we always are because we're supposed to be Democrats or because people are afraid of Trump. It's whoever's going to take care of our community, whoever wants to make a deal, it's business at this point. Whoever wants to make a deal, it's business at this point. You know, we can't trust politicians, you know, so we want to know very clearly, just like Trump made it clear that he wanted to build a wall, Biden needs to make it clear that he's going to change the lives and quality of life of Black and brown people, or else he can't get the vote. I will hold the vote hostage if I have to.
You said it here, said it first.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Now, I will put on my Ichiawa hat. Ichiawa part-time psychic hat. And thought approves this. Look at what has happened since this man has been in office. Look at how much stuff he's done that the Supreme Court has upheld. And I explained to you why already. You've seen your own proof. Do your own investigation. I also want you to pay attention to what has been under attack. You had Roe versus Wade that was knocked out for women. Then you had affirmative action, DEI, and now he's going after all the programs that was created by executive order. Now, and you had who was that they named it after? John, no, I can't remember the civil rights leader that it was named after or whatever about voting rights. Was it John Lewis or something like that?
Yeah.
But now they're coming right back and they're going after the which we already talked about, this whole Louisiana, the second, I can't remember that. Y'all know what I'm talking about because I read it off to you already. So they're coming after that to strip the voting thing away. Why is all of that happening right now? Excuse me, y'all. And this is something that I went to ChatGPT about because I see the pattern. The patterns that I'm seeing, I have right here in my book for y'all today. Ain't have grabbed it from Amazon. The whole formula is right there. So ChatGPT told me about a thing that I'm using called tracing. Using historical events to trace and predict what's going to happen in the future. And through that tracing, It shows me that an event is coming up in 2026, and it's going to be a big one because everything is leading up to that. You got midterms and all that. Let me read what I got here, and then I'm gonna play this last joint. And me and after this, I read this. See if Thought got something he want to say. Play that last video. I'm gonna get out your way. But here we go. Why 2026 is it is a likely time. The courts has already asked for re-argument of the CALLAIS. That's that whole thing going to is Louisiana versus that name there. Expanding the questions like constitutionality of Section 2 beyond the narrow map of Louisiana. The court seems ready to push beyond just one state. Signals shows they want to set national standards, not just rules for Louisiana. The legal and political climate is already aligned to support broader rollbacks of race-conscious framework. Example, affirmative action, decisions, the Trump administration policies on DEI. A sweeping decision time, excuse me, time before, I gotta drink some water, I've been talking so much. A sweeping decision time before 2026 midterms would maximize political impact. So it is strategically a strategic moment to recalibrate redistricting norms just ahead of the next cycle. The next cycle, people. What we got here? What's up, Ja? Now see more over there thinking. Okay. What that say? Thought.
Oh, every time Deep Thought on here, y'all cats have a guy on heavy contemplation.
Oh, listen here. That's what Deep Thought brings. That's why his name is Deep Thought. But it's good because it got us thinking, man. So you got something you want to say, Thought, before I play this last joint?
Oh, no. No, I think everybody got it.
And we do what we do, man. And salute to y'all. Much love. Give us some hearts, some thumbs up. I know y'all been thinking and all that, but y'all didn't give me no thumbs up and no hearts. Give me some of that. Give us some follows. Give us some, some subscriptions and all that. Deep Thought working on something big with that whole thing going over there with the cartel thing and all that.
I got something for you.
Yeah, that's why we ain't did nothing. If you still there, Percy, that's when we ain't did too much on it because he cooking up a whole big series, man. It's gonna go through it all. It's gonna explain it from this perspective, but he also got the news clips from over there, some stuff you ain't seen because the stuff we be kicking about don't nobody know. You know what I'm saying? If you got the book, you know, like Supreme and more and Ja too. So that's the deal. But it's gonna be a real treat for you, and it's gonna be extensive. So. What's this last comment here? Peace to you, baby mama, if you're still out there. Okay, what you got more? I have to catch this from the listen more. You gonna have to catch it from the beginning. Have your pen, because I know you. Have your pen and paper down, but a lot of it you're gonna catch. But let me drop this on you, then we're gonna play the video. I said something about this earlier in the video, this little note that Putin sent over when he sent over the documents of their investigation of the JFK thing. He sent over something. I'm thinking, let me see if I got it real quick in this thing here. Let me just see real quick, because I kind of want y'all to see it so y'all can go look at it. If I still got it in here, I probably don't. But okay, here it is right here. Let me see if I can upload it. Now it's not the right size, but just so y'all can see it. This right here at Elon Musk. This is the what's that? Sovereign fund guy for Russia that works directly with Putin. Let me say, can you see that Thought?
Yeah, I got you. Imagine connecting the U.S. and Russia, the Americas, and the Afro-Eurasia with Putin-Trump tunnel, a 70-mile link symbolizing unity. Traditional costs are 65 billion plus, but at the Boring Company, which is Elon Musk, one of his companies, tech could reduce it to right under 8 billion. Let's build a future together.
Okay. Now y'all see that, right? Now I'm about to hit y'all with something, and I'm not even gonna explain it. I'm gonna hit y'all with something, and then I'm gonna step off. What I'm about to hit y'all with is right here. Because if you know, you know. Okay, I thought Moore said something else. This right here is going to shake up the Western world. I've already done the research. Me and Thought considering doing a show on this. Now here you go. It says Afro-Asia. Afro, they say Afro-Asia, Afro-Eurasia.
Yeah, Afro-Eurasia. Yeah.
But what it shows you was Russia connecting to the Americas. Americas is territorial. It's not states. Territories are still under treaty. So if they dig a tunnel, what they will be trading will not go across water. So that's outside of the jurisdiction of maritime law. It goes back to terrestrial law that predates maritime law. Maritime law had to create courts to settle arbitrary disagreements between corporations where product crossed water. So they had to establish admiralty courts because it's intercontinental exchange. This will be the first time territorial connections will connect continents. And you will have courts that will have to resemble that. What am I saying? We're under admiralty court and admiralty law based on maritime law. Once it goes back to territory and trade crossing territory, you go back under common law. That rolls back the 1920-something, circa 20-something, Erie Railroad versus Tompkins, to where the Supreme Court said that it was about to undo 150 years of legal precedence. At that point forward, common law would not be considered in the courts, only laws of commerce. Laws of commerce is maritime admiralty law, created by the Western world. As my grandfather would say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. So, peace to you. Peace to y'all. I'm sure Thought feel the same way. We're going to go and get out y'all way. We're going to run this last one, then we're going to shut it down. And as always, my good people, I always tell you, we got next.
This shit. They burnt kids. They did this. We can't even breathe. We got 0% of the wealth. I want to tap into. Do any of y'all want to fight? The fuck? This is the fight. All that other shit. Nah, we can get all that other shit. We get some motherfucking money and get some independence and start getting the resources so we can police our own communities. We can hire our own. Everything starts from money. We want to cure diabetes. You need money. You want to affect the wealth gap. You need money. You want to do education. You need anything. You need money. That's it. Everybody leave. If you don't have no money, you're just going to sit here and be a broke nigga with no money talking about the same shit they was talking about 100 years ago. And I'm not doing that.